guys, gals, and non-binary pals, welcome to Board Game the Game Show presents the WIN-terview, the only interview you can win. Yes, you out there, I'm talking to you. You can win today. Today's top prize is $5. Is it a lot? No. Is it real money? Yes. It is, we discussed it earlier on Twitter. It is 10% of your way to Super Mario All-Stars 3D, or 50% of the way to a really nice deck of cards. We'll introduce how that works in a second, but first I want to introduce my guest for this episode. You may know him for Geekdad. You may know him online. I know him as tonight's guest. Tonight's guest, let me introduce Jonathan Liu. Jonathan, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well.
Very good, very good. Sorry, all of a sudden I went to, because there was a moment, I just want everyone to know, in case you said, look, there looks like there's a little bit of panic in Bruce's eyes. What happened? I went to bring you into the stream, and instead it removed you from everything for a second. And I was like, gosh darn it, this is not good at all. This is not how we start a show off. But yeah, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty well. You know, it's been an okay day.
At this point, that is really, as they say in the casinos, a push is a win.
I mean, yesterday started off with discovering that someone had stolen the catalytic converter from our Toyota Prius. So today did not start with that. Improvement.
I suppose that's a win. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I saw your post about that. Now, I have to ask, because now you probably know about these. Did they steal it for the platinum? Is that what they did?
Well, my understanding is that, it's the metals in it. And apparently hybrid catalytic converters have more of the metals in it. And older Priuses tend to have more than the newer ones. It was this thing where it's like, I didn't know anything about this. And I drove in, the mechanic was like, oh yeah, we know what's happening, without even looking at my car. And I was like, what was that? And they're like, well, have you heard about this? And I was like, no. And I came back home and Googled and I was like, oh yeah, it's been happening for years and everybody knows about this, but me. So
as a person that knows about it, you learn it when it happens.
Yeah.
Because many years ago, my father-in-law, God rest his soul, gave me his Passat. He had a Volkswagen Passat. And what I learned on that car is everything on that car is expensive. And at one point, everything was fine. Same thing you were talking about. They're like, oh, one of your catalytic converters has been stolen. And I was like, what do you mean one of them? They were like, oh, they're incredibly valuable and your car has two of them. I was like, oh, good. Exactly what I wanted to hear.
One. I mean, I guess they're being charitable.
They're like, well, let's leave him with one. Let's let him get some more so he can replace it.
Right.
It's like taking an apple off the tree and waiting for a new one to grow.
Right.
So let's talk about some things, because while I've been looking at stuff that you're doing, I've learned about new things, because I know about Geekdad, and I feel like everyone in the gaming space probably knows something about it, although this would be the time for you to tell folks about Geekdad, what it does, who should care about it, why they should care about it, what you talk about, all that great stuff.
All right. Well, Geekdad is it's a website. It's the half of the Geek family network. So we've got a Geekdad site and a Geek Mom site.
Okay.
They are sites, in short, written by and for geeky parents.
Okay.
It is primarily parents. I've got a weird pop-up. Okay. Primarily, parents. We have a couple of non-parents, but most of our writers are parents of some, kids of all sorts of ages. And we write about our geeky passions and our interests and our kids. So my beat is primarily board games. I also write about books. And occasionally other gadgets or toys that come across my way, but primarily what most people know me for is my board game coverage.
Of course.
But we've got a big staff of writers, and we cover all sorts of different topics. And so it's been something I've been doing for about 11 years now, and have really enjoyed it, and have gotten to know a lot of people, both who write for the sites and just through things I've gotten to cover. So, definitely have made a lot of friends in board gaming through working on Geekdad. So
Absolutely. I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to show everybody the game that we're going to be playing in just a little while. I have follow-up questions, but I want to make sure everybody here knows about the second half. In the second half of the game, we play a 50-50 game show where we talk to Jonathan about his preferences. If you can guess them, you can win, once again, $5 whole. You do that, go on any device, it'll go to the internet. Phone or tablet is probably best, but whatever you have will work. Go to the website crowd.live, enter the code BRVZQ. BRVZQ. It will ask you if you are playing a game. It will ask you for the game code. Gosh darn it. That's the game code right there. We'll remind you a couple more times, but I like to get one out early so that if you know you're going to play, you might as well log in right now. If you happen to be especially techie, which I'm not, but if you are in the bottom left-hand corner, you are going to see that scan to join QR code. You can just scan. They'll take you right where you need to be. We will be starting up in just a couple of minutes. But just wanted to get that out there so that you're ready for it.
Should I sign in too?
No, not at all, because you know about you. So that seems like it'd be real easy to cheat. Just that's how it feels to me.
I just studied ahead of time. That's not cheating.
As a note, and I will tell you, I probably should have told you before we started, but I'll let you know now. Everyone knows that does this show. I give you 20 questions. You pick the 10 that you like, and that's what we're going to talk about in the second half of the show. They will be in a different order than you gave them to me in, so don't be surprised by that. I've had people that do the show and they sit with like a script of their own opinions, and they get real thrown off when everything's out of order. So I just want you to know, don't worry about that. It's all going to be out of order. We're just going to chat our way through it. So don't be worried about that at all. But for everybody else, feel free to get in the game right now. There are 3 players in the game. We're going to give you more chances. So you're 1 in 3 of leaving with $5.
$5.
So a question I have for you, because I have it for everybody that's kind of carved a niche somewhere in gaming. How'd you end up in this niche? Like, what pushed you to where you are?
Well, it all started. I got into modern gaming probably about 15, 16 years ago. Much in the same way as many people. I grew up playing some games, but then was introduced to Settlers of Catan and Ticket to Ride and Carcassonne. They're the ones that have brought so many people into the world of gaming. And shortly after that, I found Board Game Geek and just fell down that rabbit hole. And that's that's kind of how I started getting into games. I just really fell in love with all of the different types of games that were being made, and then I was living in a small town in Kansas called Tribune for a couple of years. And that's when Geekdad had put out a call for more writers. And so I said, well, I've been reading Geekdad for a couple of years. I like the site. I think, I have something to offer in that I'm a stay-at-home dad, and I love board games. And so those are 2 things that I didn't see very much on the site at the time. So I said, I'd love to write about board games, and I'd love to, write about being a stay-at-home dad. And so they accepted my application, so I started writing for them, and that's kind of what has led up to now is just consistently writing about board games, and eventually having written about enough that I started getting some attention for that. So
that's fantastic. That's how you do it, and you end up somewhere. So a question for you, because I feel like the only times that you and I ever really get to interact that are not completely virtual and all text-based is the occasional convention or show here and there.
Yeah.
So obviously in the times we're in right now, everything's gone virtual. But back when we could all meet and be in the same place, were there any shows that like particularly you were excited about beyond connections? So I worked for North Star, and there were shows I went to, and there were some that I knew were great for meeting people and getting like the message out there. And there were others I just liked going to just as a geek walking around are the ones that I would want to not be on a beat somewhere and just walk and be a part of. So are there any of those that stick out to you where you're like, I just really liked, that vibe or that place or that show?
Well, I actually don't get to travel to a lot of conventions.
Okay.
So I've managed to go to Gen Con for several years now, and that's like the one big trip that I make each year. And other than that, it's been primarily some smaller local conventions.
Okay.
One of my favorites that I've been attending for a long time is GameStorm, which is up here in the Portland and Vancouver area.
Okay.
And it's usually around spring break, and it's just 4 days of nonstop gaming. So they start Thursday afternoon, and you show up, and there are panels, and there are there's a small vendor hall, but it's primarily tables and tables set up for gaming, and it's nowhere near as big as Gen Con.
I mean, nothing is.
Nothing is. But it's for the past couple years, I've been doing a Gaming with Geekdad event there, where I show up with 25 to 50 of the games that I really like from that year, and they give me some table space, and I just say, if you show up and you sit down with your group of friends or by yourself, I will find you a game to play and teach you how to play it. And so I love doing that.
That is super cool. So then I feel like this leads to the natural follow-up, which is, had that been happening this year, what are some of the games that you've seen come out that you would like to have had that opportunity, or will eventually, because the world has to return to normal at some point, right?
Boy, I'm trying to think like which ones I had my shelf of games prepped for GameStorm this year, because the lockdown started about 2 weeks before the event was going to happen, and at that point it was still a little bit of that. Are we going to do it? No, it doesn't feel safe. I guess we could cancel. So I had some of those picked out. But the ones I tend to take to GameStorm, I don't tend to take some of the heavier games, simply because those don't always work as well in a convention environment. But we had the Quacks of Quedlinburg is still it's a fantastic convention game that I had shown the year before, and so I was really excited about the Herb Witches expansion for this year. So that was one that was on my list. I had a couple of the Funkoverse. And that one, it's this fun, light, tactical battle game that the miniatures are a lot of fun, and have the Golden Girls set, so that was great.
I'm still missing Dorothy and Sophia. I need to get Dorothy and Sophia.
They're a good pair. They're a good pair. Although definitely Rose is my favorite.
I understand.
Well, I'm trying to think what else I had on the list. Because since then, I've written up a lot of Kickstarter games. And so those are all ones that I really like, but they're not out yet.
Okay.
And so sometimes I get, I often do take some of the prototypes of games like that to GameStorm as well. So, Slip Strike is one that I've really enjoyed. It's from Junk Spirit Games. It's a little 2-player card game. That he had a demo of last year at Gen Con, and that's where I first saw it, and said it was one of my favorite things that I saw at Gen Con last year. It features time traveling, teleporting agents who are trying to take each other down, and so it's very, very simple, cat and mouse, like predict where the other person's going to be, sort of game. And it's just really slick. And so he did a Kickstarter for it earlier this year, delivered it this fall, and it turned out really nicely. So that's one that would have been on my list too.
That is very cool. And you have, and I can't thank you enough, you have set up the transition to the next thing to talk about, which is that you do a podcast. I had not really paid attention and looked at it, but you do a podcast called Recorded Tomorrow, which please tell me about this, because I want to understand, because it looks amazing and I don't know enough about it. So I'm going to assume that other people that are watching also don't know enough about it.
Yeah, we started we started last fall, maybe. I don't remember exactly when we started. It's my friend Jesse Ferguson. He's also in this area. He lives in Vancouver, and I know him through game nights and things. And at some point, we realized we both really like time travel stories. And so, he asked me if we wanted to do a podcast together, and I said that sounded great, especially if he wanted to do all the work of editing, because I don't really like editing audio. So I got the good end of the deal, where I get to be co-host of a podcast and I get to show up and do the recording, and he does the heavy lifting, which I'm very grateful for. He does a great job with it. But the first maybe 8 to 10 episodes or so are we go through some of the like rules of time travel stories, and what we're trying to do is lay out some of the kind of the pitfalls that time travel stories tend to fall into and how to avoid them, and then talk about how they're used. And so those are kind of more general episodes about time travel and how you do it. And then since then we've done a couple episodes about like specific specific shows. We did like a deep dive into Primer, for instance. And we talked about Bill and Ted, because Bill and Ted, the new Bill and Ted movies, and we want to do an episode about the new Bill and Ted, but we've talked about the old one, and so it's kind of a fun way to just kind of dig into this genre that we both really enjoy, and pick apart movies where we're like, this was really fun to watch, but it just doesn't work.
Yep. And often time travel stories are just so hard because there's so much stuff you need to keep straight within your own timelines and universes. And so there can certainly be some of them where you're like, it's a great movie. The time travel makes no sense.
Yep.
But the movie's fantastic.
So our number one rule is whatever you set your rules of time travel to be, you have to be consistent. And that's the thing that gets a lot of people, is like, this is how time travel works. And then 20 minutes later, they do something, you're like, that's not what you said.
Yep. So. I will accept anything you tell me as long as you follow the rule.
Exactly.
Well, let's take a quick look. Let's remind everybody, we're going to start this up in just a moment. Also, if you're out there, if you're watching, if you have comments, if you have things to say, if you want to say hi, let me know. We're here to talk to you. This is happening live whenever you're watching it. But we're going to jump out. We're going to start this game in just a moment. On your phone, on your device, on your tablet, whatever you got. Probably works on an Apple Watch for all I know. If you find out, let me know. Go to crowd.live, enter the code BRVZQ. BRVZQ is what you enter to win top prize tonight, $5. $5 good old-fashioned American dollars. It'll almost buy you a fast food meal if that happens to be your joint, or, as we talked about, half of a very nice deck of cards. We have our first hello coming in. How are you doing? I thank you so much for checking out the show. We always appreciate it.
Hey.
I'm happy just to see it. Somebody's out there. So thank you so much for taking the time to say, hey, I was getting worried because nothing had come through. So thank you so much. Once again, we're going to start the competition in just a moment. We will be asking 10 50-50 questions. The faster you answer, the more points it's worth. At the end of the game, if you get the most points, you get $5. Robin says, hey, I'm on my way home now.
That's my wife.
I figured.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. At this point, I felt like it was a service. I had to bring this up on the screen. So,
she might be competing for that $5, but
I understand. It feels unfair.
She'll miss a few questions as a handicap.
Or just miss the first half of the show. You can jump in.
Exactly, right. Because she's on her way home, so she's not home yet.
So we might get this started faster just to give everybody else a chance to win once again. Fabulous prize, $5. If you're out there, if you are a game company, if you know a game company, let me know. I'm clearly still looking for sponsors. So let's jump in. Let's start getting into the game. I'm going to set everything up once again. If you're out there, if you want to play, gosh darn it, on a browser, on any browser-based device, go to crowd.live, enter the code BRVZQ. You want in as early as you possibly can get in, because that's how you get the points. I'm going to start our competition up. You're going to get a 10 count, of which they have never fixed the 9. So there will not be a 9. I don't know why there's not a 9, but there's never a 9. 10, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Tonight's question number 1. Is it okay to change game rules, or you never change game rules? Is it okay to change game rules, or you never change game rules? That's what we're asking you. For the pacing, once everybody is in, we'll take a look and see how the crowd voted, and then we'll talk to you about what you said and why. To me, I feel this one did not feel especially difficult to me, but let's see how exactly the crowd votes. The first one's usually to test everyone's phones. So let's take a look here. The crowd goes 75-25. It's okay to change game rules. Jonathan, how do you feel about it and why?
I think it's okay to change game rules. I am a bit of a rules lawyer. Like, if you want to know what the rules say, I want to know what here is how the game is meant to be played as intended by the designer. But I'm also entirely okay with saying, you know what? But I mean, my kid can't do that, or this player really doesn't like that idea. And so if you want to change something so that your gaming group has a more pleasant experience, that seems fine. I do think there are times where people play a game and they get a rule wrong and have a bad experience, and they go, well, this is terrible. Like, I do want to say, it's worth trying to figure out how the game was meant to be played before you write it off. But, if you're like, these are some great components, I was disappointed in how the game played, well, make your own game. I mean, the game that I made, I don't know if you're aware of this, Emperor's New Clothes, is entirely about making your own rules to the game as you play. So I'm definitely okay with people playing that however they want.
I know at one point my favorite thing I ever heard said about this was, I want to say it was Scott Nicholson, who said, we sell you a box of pieces. We tell you how you're supposed to use them. But at the end of the day, they're your box of pieces. Use them however you want. One note for always flexible rules if you're going to play with kids.
Yep.
And I think the thing I find is, when I talk to people about this, is the parents are significantly more flexible about this than gamers I find, like, without children. Normally, if there's someone that's really freaking out about bending a rule, you normally see that they've never been in a situation where they've had to do something like that. It normally seems to me, but that's completely anecdotal. Let's take a look at the board. Right now, Josh again, 89 points, Nature at 88, Ridley at 56, and if you Sutsy. If you Sutsy? If you Sutsy?
Yeah.
I was trying to work my way through that one. I was like, I don't know if I'm ever going to get this. This to me is like looking at a license plate when you're trying to, that they paid for a vanity plate and you're desperately trying to figure out what it is because they paid money for it. So you're like, well, I want to get the message, but I don't know what it is. Once again, 1 point game away from that $5 prize. We're going to move on to question number 2. Here we go. Walrus or penguin? I'm not sure why exactly this is a fight for people, but I do know it is. And not that I don't think animal preference is important. I definitely do. I'm just never sure why these two are paired up. But for whatever reason, they usually are. Let's see what the crowd thinks. Crowd thinks 75-25 on the penguin. Jonathan, how do you feel and why?
Well, I was leaning towards penguin, so the crowd is pretty good there. I don't know that I'd seen this particular pairing as a preference. Yeah. I was like, why are these two together? But I mean, I gotta say, like, walruses are really fun with their big tusks and the mustache. But penguins are adorable and amusing, and I don't know. I mean, there's a reason why people make lots of movies about cartoon penguins.
Definitely.
And not about walruses, and I think they're right.
What this may have forced is the next time this gets asked, it may be penguin versus otter.
That would be a hard one.
Yeah. Until it's really a painful decision. Let's take a look at the board. Nature leading with 174. Josh again at 150. Ify Sutsi at 87, Ridley at 56. If you want to jump in, you can at any point in the game. We're only 2 questions in, 8 questions remaining to go. You can still get in and win all this money. All this cash can be yours. All $5. As we move on to question number 3, here we go. Jazz or classical? Jazz or classical? Which is it going to be here of the 2 forms of music that I think the further and further we head to the future, the quicker we are likely to put them off the ends of the record stores, whether they be real or virtual. I still remember when I was younger, you could easily find kind of jazz and classical albums because I'm kind of that old. But now, not so much. The crowd says 67-33 jazz. Jonathan, how do you feel and why?
Oh, we lost it. We lost an answer, or someone didn't answer.
It happens sometimes. Sometimes there's a missed connection or somebody misses something. That goes down every so often.
All right. Well, I will have to go for classical.
You've left only one person that's in.
Yeah.
It appears to be. There's their reaction.
Yeah.
Got distracted.
Yeah, that's why we lost the person.
It happens. So why classical? Classical versus jazz?
You know, I would say, like, I grew up. I played piano and I played viola in an orchestra. I play music in a way where I'm okay with following exact rules. and unlike what I said about game rules, I'm just not good at improv. And I'm not good at, just jamming and coming up with my own thing. And so I as far as that goes, like, I had very good technical skills as a musician. But I don't think I ever really got the, sort of the heart side of it. And so for me, and so I enjoy listening to jazz, but I cannot play it.
So you're not ready for that, man. It's about the notes you don't play.
Yeah. Yeah. If I don't play a note, it's because I missed it.
Here's a question coming in. Do you have a favorite composer?
Oh, I mean, I would say probably in high school, especially, I was very much into Bach and his inventions because they had that very mathematical feel to them. I tried doing a high school science project where I was like, hey, maybe if you could take, Bach's music and examine it and understand the patterns, you could generate, Bach sounding music. And I was trying to do this in high school with, like, no programming skills, and no one understood what I was trying to do. And then, like, I don't know, 2 years later, do you remember the 3DO, the game console, the 3DO? Yeah. That came out, and there was the game. It was a disc called was it CPU Bach? Wow. And it was exactly what I had been trying to do, is like, you put this thing in and it would just generate on the fly Bach sounding music. And I was like, well, I was right. I just, couldn't do it.
The 3DO was such a weird system.
It was.
It's one of those, I keep trying to find decent emulation stuff for the 3DO because it did, like, weird visual game shows. It was in on some of that, like, movie stuff that was early before Night Trap. It kind of seemed to be in that space. But some really strange stuff on that system. Let's take a look and see how this affects the scores.
All right.
Josh again leading with 237, Nature 174. If you see at 87, Ridley at 56. Still a chance to get in if you're out there, if you're watching this, if you want in and you want a shot at the big money, $5. You can jump in at any point. The game is not that far away just yet. As we move on to question number 4, as we start to push the possibility of getting in late further and further away. No power for 3 days or no internet for a week. No power for 3 days. Nothing works. Or no internet for a week. I would assume, and we did not put it in the rules that we gave you, this also means you couldn't get it on your phone. You just can't get the internet because we're in this magical world where we've decided to do terrible things to you. So we can do them completely. Let's take a look and see how the crowd voted. 100% no power for 3 days. Jonathan, what is it and why?
I actually chose no internet for a week. So the crowd is entirely wrong on this one.
You get nothing. So why no internet for a week versus no power for 3 days? So,
and I did, when I saw the question, I did assume that I couldn't cheat by getting on my phone.
Yep.
I mean, I've lived without the internet before.
Mm-hmm.
and I have plenty of things to do now. Like certainly I would miss being online. I would miss, there's I couldn't do any of my Geekdad work, and I would hate the amount of email that I'd have to catch up on when I got back. But a lot of, I mean, I'm a night owl, and I can read books and I can play board games without the internet, but I can't do that if the lights go out and I've got no power. I'm not a I'm not a outdoorsy sort of person, and it's like if I had no power, I would be up late and just be in the dark, and that sounds terrible.
I have to agree with you.
And so I think I'd rather put up with having an internet break than having a power break.
And I have to say, and I don't know if you feel this way, and I'm real curious, it sounds kind of relaxing. Like, for as much as the internet can do and as connected as we all are, if everything just conked out for a week in the internet, it may not be the worst thing ever.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like, the other thing was, I mean, we had to deal with an internet outage, not for a whole week, but we had to deal with that for a couple of days earlier this month. And, if I knew it was just, hey, you're going to lose your internet for a week and then it's going to come back, then that would be fine. I think the problem is when it goes out and you're trying to get it back, then that's, that's a pain. Because I spent like 2 days on the phone with, our internet provider trying to figure out what was going on.
It's that hope that makes it so difficult.
Right.
I've been in offices where it knocks out, and then everyone in the office is kind of in that, which is the first one of us to leave and take a 2-hour lunch? Because it's not coming back. But are we going to wait for it? Do we know if it's can someone just tell us that it's not coming back today and everyone can go to a coffee shop and work?
Exactly.
Clearly shows that story comes from a completely different time and place than we're in right now. Obviously, the scores have not changed at all because none of you even guessed it. So we're heading on to question number 5. Here we go. Tesla or Edison? We talked about power. Seems like a perfectly decent time to work this question in. This is as close to a logical segue as often these questions give us. And I did find, we'll talk in a couple minutes, because once again, everybody gets a list of 20 questions. You pick the 10 that you want to talk about. And by and large, you avoided almost all of the really absurdist stuff.
Yeah, sorry. I almost
always
did
find
the what was it? The monkey and the
I don't even remember.
It was a robot and a robot that threw antiques.
Yeah, I think it was a robot that threw antiques, and it was something else that could throw 200-mile-an-hour fastballs.
Yeah, marshmallow something.
Yeah, I think it was the Marshmallow Man, like from Ghostbusters.
I think I just had trouble parsing it.
I understand. Well, that's the problem with absurdism. So, okay, so the whole crowd goes Tesla. Jonathan, how do you feel and why?
Oh, well, the whole crowd is right this time, so they a little bit of redemption there. I admire, like, definitely growing up, like, admired all the things about Edison, because that's the person you learned about with the light bulb and all of the things that he electricity and all of that, and I think as I got older and is like, oh, here's this guy Nikola Tesla, and here's the things that he did. And oh, by the way, here's all the ways that, like, Edison was, just sort of horrible and stole ideas and tried to shut other people down. And I was like, yeah, that was not so great anymore. So, I think Nikola Tesla is sort of this weird, fascinating character. And yeah, I think.
Ooh, Edison, you plagiarizing fool.
Yep. So yep, gotta go with Tesla.
Very good, very good. So for this one, remember, the faster you answer, the more points it's worth. I have not mentioned it this show because no one has yelled yet. Normally someone does. Pay attention to your phone. Don't necessarily worry about what we're talking about, because you have no idea what the lag is going to be between when we reveal the question and when you answer it. So this is all going to be about speed. Everybody got it right, so everybody's getting some points. Let's take a look. Josh again at 322, Nitra at 262. If Yasutsi at 177, Ridley at 138. Let's see. And then we have a new comment coming in. By the way, Edison was a giant jerk and Tesla was a nerdy genius.
Yep.
That's all you need right there. And the whole crowd went with it. As we move on to question number 6, we're halfway through the game. Half down, half to go. Here we go. Question 6. Crossword puzzle or jigsaw puzzle? I often like anytime someone will be kind enough to come on this show to ask you about things that I consider like board game adjacent.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that's not right down the middle that may be super easy to answer, but that may appeal to other things that you do. Now, let's take a look at what the crowd says. They are 75-25 for jigsaw puzzle. Jonathan, how do you feel and why?
Well, I went with jigsaw puzzle. I do enjoy both.
Okay.
I really like, I like the puzzle of, the word puzzle of a crossword puzzle. I love playing with words and wordplay. But I don't really do a lot of them.
Okay.
And, I do more jigsaw puzzles. And like many people during quarantine, we've done more puzzles than usual. And I like working on jigsaw puzzles with my family. Although the last one I did almost entirely by myself, just because there's times where I'm awake and everyone else is asleep and I just can't stop.
Yep.
But I like the jigsaw puzzle of watching it come together and looking for the pieces and that the skill level, and you don't need, I think with crossword puzzles, there is this sort of level of esoteric knowledge that you eventually go, oh yeah, this word just comes up over and over again because it's a good crossword puzzle word.
Yep.
But but every puzzle is different, right? When you put it together.
That was always my fundamental problem with Scrabble, was not the wordness of it. It was that whoever knew the most 2-letter words from the Scrabble dictionary inevitably will win that game.
I'm not so great at Scrabble.
Josh again leading with 409, taking what I would call a commanding lead, though the game is far from over. Nature 262, if you'd see, at 253. Ridley at 220, trying to climb into the top 3. Once again, first place gets $5. The rest of you get my sincere thank you for playing. As we move on to question number 7, arcade game or pinball machine? Once again, we're kind of keeping it in games. Because I often find a lot of folks that get into board games, most, not all, far from all, but most seem to have some passing interest in what were kind of old school arcades. More information coming in, more quotes here. Scrabble is an area control game. Yes, it is.
Absolutely, yes.
Definitely. Maybe more than anything else. Let's take a look. The votes, 25% arcade, 75% pinball machine. Jonathan, how do you feel and why?
Ooh. One person's going to be very happy. I never played a lot of pinball. When I go to the arcade when I was a kid, and you always have the pinball machines, and I've played some, but I think I'm not very good at it.
Okay.
If you've got a quarter and you can play for 10 minutes over here and 3 minutes over here,
Yep.
didn't have enough to spend to get good at pinball. And I think I will fully recognize that not all pinball machines are the same, and that there's a lot of variety there, but they feel more the same to me than different arcade games feel like each other, right? Or up to a point. Obviously, there's lots of arcade games that are very similar, but I feel like there's the variety of different types of arcade games is what I enjoyed. And so, got to go for arcade games.
Yeah, I think even as a pinball nerd, which I will solidly call myself, if someone says to me, the games can feel kind of samey, I can't be mad about that. There's no doubt. So then let me ask you, since we're in the realm of the arcade, so what game, if you walk into an arcade, like now we have barcades everywhere and you sort of Dave and Buster's and that kind of stuff. If you walk into one, what's the one you're hoping to find, even if it's unlikely to be there? What is the game you're hoping you walk up to and see in the wild?
Well, let me think. I mean, it's been a long time. I think one game that I never actually played when I was a
Okay.
kid, but I'd watch people play all the time, was Dragon Slayer.
Okay.
Like the animated
Oh yeah,
you know,
Dragon Slayer. Yep.
yeah, Dragon's Lair, where you got the goofy knight
Yep.
trying to fight the dragon and the bad guys, and it was this very like kind of twitchy game, right? Where it's like you're just trying to twitch at the right times to oh, the thing flashed, I need to make a decision. And I could and I'd watch people play this and die over and over again. It was like, oh man, I don't think I would make it very far at all. I get like 30 seconds out of my quarter.
Oh yeah, it was
but,
a merciless game.
But I loved that the way that they incorporated animated cartoons into a video game. And so I think now that I actually am an adult and could sink like $5 into it, maybe I would give it a shot.
I would tell you, as an adult, buy like one of the $20 games you can get for like Switch that has all of them, because they're real horrible. They're real bad, like, to play. The Don Bluth art is amazing because it's like playing an American Tail.
Yeah,
because it's the same art team. But the games are borderline impossible. So I would say do that and experience them that way rather than dumping quarters in, because I'll tell you, age does not help you in a Don Bluth arcade game. Looking at the scores, Josh again leading with 409. Ridley starting to close in. I can't imagine how, with 313 and each 252. If you'd see at 253, a tight race for third place. The top still sort of a battle. We'll see. Moving on to question number 8 of 10. 10 questions for tonight's game. Etch-a-Sketch or Rubik's Cube? So we bounced from one place to another. We went... I probably should have honestly put this one question earlier, because it would have made more sense after puzzles. But we're here. Toys now. Toys/puzzles. Etch-a-Sketch or Rubik's Cube? What do we have? 50-50 on Etch-a-Sketch and Rubik's Cube. Hey, Jonathan, what's the answer on this one and why?
Well, we've got Rubik's Cubes and we've got Etch-a-Sketches. But I'm gonna have to go for Etch-a-Sketch.
Yeah. So this is something I noticed looking through your Twitter, and it blew my mind. I had to force this question. If you didn't take this question, you were going to be talking about this in the first half, whether you intended to or not. So you're doing like an Etch-a-Sketch a day.
Yes. So it's a you've heard of Inktober.
Yep.
Where for every day of October, you do a drawing, and it's kind of a excuse to practice your craft consistently, and have fun taking part in this community on social media. Yep. And the past couple years, I decided to do my own spin on it, calling it Etchtober, where I did 31 Etch-a-Sketch drawings over the course of the month. And last year's was entirely board game related Etch-a-Sketch drawings. The previous year was a little scattered, just everything, lots of different things. And then after the end of last year, I decided probably in January, I did a couple of memes on my Etch-a-Sketch, and I was calling it hashtag meme-a-sketch. It didn't go very long, but then when October rolled around, I said, you know what? I think I'm going to try doing an entire month of memes on my Etch-a-Sketch, and so that's what I've it's been a week so far, so I haven't done my one for today, but I've done seven memes on my Etch-a-Sketch, and they're posted on my Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. And
give everyone the information so they can find it for your Twitter and your Instagram, and less so your Facebook.
Twitter and Instagram. I'm Jonathan H. Liu, and you know what? Facebook. I think I'm JH Liu on Facebook. I don't know.
You decided to go with the author handle there.
Yeah, but I did notice though that I'm relatively new to Instagram. The only thing I have on Instagram right now is my Inktober, Etchtober drawings. And I just don't really like Instagram. I think it's a weird way to post images. It's like your entire your entire model is that this is to share images, and yet it has like the worst image quality and image sharing tools that there are. It's really frustrating.
There are some especially if the ecosystem you're used to is Twitter.
Yeah.
Jumping over to Instagram, like it doesn't even feel like you're playing the same sport anymore. It's almost as if you were a gifted tennis player and you were sent to a bowling alley. And you're like, yeah, I know the game has a ball, but like, how are these remotely? Why are we even pretending these are similar to one another? No, I completely understand what you're talking about there. So I have always wanted to ask someone that can do art on an Etch-a-Sketch. How is that a skill you learn that you have? Like I completely understand if you happen to be good at visual art that, you know, like you pick up a pencil one day and you start doodling and you're like, this is a thing that I do. But Etch-a-Sketch, like that's a real specific device you have to pick up and then work on. So like, how does that happen?
Well, for me, it was in college.
Okay.
There was 1 year in college. I asked for an Etch-a-Sketch for Christmas because I hadn't played with one for a long time, and I was like, oh yeah, Etch-a-Sketch would be fun. You know, just something fun to have in the dorm room, right?
Yeah.
And you know, and I didn't own one at the time, so I asked for one. I got one, took it to college with me, and started messing around. And I do draw by hand. You know, it's not like I could draw in an Etch-a-Sketch, but I can't draw by hand. You know, I do draw by hand, and I started doing, you know, just playing around with the Etch-a-Sketch, and realized that that something clicked. Right, I was able to stop thinking about, wait, which knob do I turn to do this direction, and thinking more about, you know, how do I draw a picture so it's one connected line, right? Because you can't pick up the pen. And so it became this, it's like goofy party trick that I could do when we have people over. We're like, hey, look, I'm gonna, you know, do this sketch of you on Etch-a-Sketch or whatever. And that's kind of how it started. And so I've been playing with it ever since, and you know, just trying to push the limits of what I can do on an Etch-a-Sketch. So you know, so the new thing this month has been I am reproducing some animated GIFs on the Etch-a-Sketch by drawing multiple frames and photographing them, and then, you know, animating them in in Photoshop.
Oh, that's awesome. Wow, that's cool. Let me jump up and change the board here. Thank you for entertaining my question, because I realized I've always wanted to ask someone, because I've always been fascinated anytime the rare times where they would have like art exhibits of 100 Etch-a-Sketches. I just always thought were so fascinating. Let's take a look at the board here. Josh again leading with 501. Ridley almost 100 points back. Nature 262, if you'd see, at 253. 2 questions remaining, so Ridley is mathematically still in the game. So we move on to question number 9. Here we go. Edge piece or centerpiece? It is a rare. This one, I don't think you got a lot of food questions on this one.
No.
Normally, a lot of them kind of end up in the mix because I use decks of cards from random games to create most of these, and I go through the ones I like. And it's how I make mistakes for some people. If you've watched some of the episodes, if you go back and take a look at them, you'll find some people have like 3 questions about characters or 3 about food out of 10. It's because in picking the 20, I didn't realize I gave someone that opportunity. And I think you only had 1 food opportunity, because I've been trying to watch that.
Yeah, there was one that was flowers versus chocolates, and so
that's what it was.
Half food.
50-50 once again. Edge piece versus centerpiece. Jonathan, which are you picking?
I like centerpiece.
There you go. So talk to me about that.
Well, you know, I mean, I assumed you were talking about something like, you know, brownies, for instance.
Of course.
And, you know, I like the gooey middle of a brownie, and I feel like when I get the edge piece and it's, you know, extra crust, like I've lost half of the brownie. So, you know, that you know, those pans where you can, like, the whole thing is edge piece. I'm like, no. I want the whole thing to be the gooey center.
Oh no, for me, I feel like at that point we're in an uncharted brownie waters where we aren't even really eating a brownie. We're starting to approach some sort of soup or pudding without edge pieces. which is why I really wanted to hear how you felt about this answer. Now, I love this. We have a comment in. I thought you meant puzzles, which is fantastic. Let's take a look and see how the board's going. Josh again leading 501. Ridley at 408 mathematically, still not out of the game.
Oh, so Josh and Ridley both answered the same way.
Yep. So it's given Anitra and Ifutsi a chance to get into the game, although still awfully far back. But one more question remaining, 100 points available. I think, and I'll talk to you, frequent viewers, we might start changing the final question to 200 points, just to make it more viable. But we're letting you know ahead of time, so you can't say we did it one night. I think starting next week, we're changing it to 200 points. Here is your final question of the game. Brace yourselves. Josh, watch yourself. Ridley's trying to catch you. Here we go. The world's largest tiny thing or the world's smallest giant thing? This was as close to absurdism as you got, and I thank you because I happen to be a huge nerd personally for like any stupid roadside attraction. And that's what both of these feel like. Let's see how the crowd feels. Everyone says
everyone went for world's largest tiny thing.
How do you feel?
That is indeed what I went for. Was the world's largest tiny thing. But when you bring up roadside attractions, I mean, I will say that one of the things that I enjoyed was, I feel like it was somewhere in Kansas. We got to see I gotta get this right. It was the world's largest collection of the world's smallest versions of the world's largest things. And so it was this like school bus that had been converted into a little traveling museum, and you would go in and it had tiny versions of like the Eiffel Tower and the pyramids and the, and I really like that. But as far as, this question goes, I feel like there are lots of small versions of big things. I mean, like anything any model we make of, planets and miniatures in games or whatever, like there are lots and lots and lots of examples of small versions of large things, and you can just keep making them smaller and smaller, and at some point though you lose the detail and you lose the what makes this a cool thing, and it's just, I mean, it's a speck, which is very cool, but I like the idea of taking things that are too small for us to see and blowing them up and making them enormous. I think the ultimate model of what I would like to see giant versions of more often is tardigrades. I think if we had giant versions of tardigrades, that would be fantastic.
One note here. I feel I need to know where this school bus museum is, the time when I'm allowed to take my students on field trips again.
Boy, it was many years ago. I'll have to figure it out, but I feel like they had a website, so
it's definitely a thing
to Google
because in writing this question, I was thinking about having heard of that. I've never been. I haven't researched it, but I was like, isn't there like a biggest tiniest thing?
Yeah. I think if you look up the world's small, world's
largest collection
of the world's largest thing, something like that. Maybe you'll turn it up. I mean, yeah. And this was many years ago, so I'm not sure where they would be now.
Well, and let's be honest, October has been a year. So who knows, based on whenever you actually were there, what in the world has happened? Before we cover the final the final answers and give everybody the scores and award points and all that, Jonathan, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to be a part of this silly little game show. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's been fun.
And tell everybody where they can find you if they want to see your Etch-a-Sketchtober and everything else that you do in all the different places and all the different things.
All right. Well, so my writing, if you want to learn about board games and books, you can go to Geekdad.com. I pop up there pretty frequently. My Twitter handle is Jonathan H. Liu, just like it is on the screen right there, only one word. And I think my Instagram is the same as well, but like I said, I'm not very good at Instagram, so I could be wrong. And I am on Facebook. I don't use Facebook as much for, I think, like, quite as much of the public facing stuff. Like Twitter is really my main sort of everything presence. So, but you can also check out the hashtag #MemaSketch because I think I'm probably the only person using that. So if you look up #MemaSketch on Instagram or Twitter, that'll be me.
Very cool. Very cool. Let's take a look. Here we go. We are now going to reveal the scores. Everybody got it right. So it's how many points did you get it for? The faster, the better. Here we go. Your winner with 576 points, Josh, again. Ridley in second, Nature in third, if you'd see, with 401. And Darth Grader jumping in at the end just to get in the game with 77 points. Thank you so much for stopping by and playing. Josh, again, contact me at BG The Game Show on Twitter, and we will get you your $5 in whatever digital form I can send it to you in. You let me know. We'll get you there. We will be back next week with a brand new game. Also, as a note, if you are watching, if you care, we will be having a special edition of the WIN-terview that is a part of Renegade Con. So we're going to be a part of Renegade Con on Saturday, 7 to 9 p.m. We're going to play the WIN-terview. We're going to do some other things. Check us out there on Renegade Games social media, and check out Renegade Con for all the details, all the information, all the great people doing stuff all weekend. We are a part of it. And once again, we'll see you then. Thank you so much. Between now, next time I see you, stay safe, stay clean, stay sane, and try to play something. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you so much. Once again, I hope to see you on Saturday, 7 p.m. as a part of Renegade Con.